Welcome back, guys. I'm Zell, and today we're getting a look at the Boker Patriot. Alright guys, we're going to do some videos like this for the next few weeks. As you can hear in the background, I have a new puppy running around, so trying to do the whole thing we normally do is going to be nearly impossible unless I've got help, and I don't have help most of the time. So here's a picture of the puppy. That is Nixie, N-Y-X-I-E. She is a bull mastiff, and she's about 14 weeks old. And I think she's kind of cute. Anyhow, back to the Boker Patriot. This is a knife made and designed by Boker in Germany and made in the USA by Fox Knives, which is an Italian company. Yeah, I know, kind of a big long way to get back to the United States, but that's okay, because what we've got is a 3¼ inch blade inside a set of GRN handles at a ridiculously low weight of 2.34 ounces. So very lightweight knife, very reminiscent of some of those Spyderco knives, but we're not going to talk about that Spyderco till maybe next week, because today it's all about the Patriot. So anyhow, we've got very nice hardware here and a nice texture on the handle. It's more aggressive than what we're used to seeing out of glass-filled nylon handles, but I kind of like it. And nice sculpting. Got a lanyard hole here. It's a bit tough to get 550 through there, but with a little work it goes through fine. As we roll it around the back side, we've got a well fit together knife. Just as good as anything else out there in its price range. And everything just looks really nice. Roll it around the backside and we get a bonus. We've got a fairly deep carry. Now this is one of those middle of the road clips. It's designed very much like a Spyderco wire pocket clip, but it's not, obviously. The way it attaches to the knife is very much like a Spyderco wire pocket clip, which is a nice touch. One bolt, less weight. And it's one bolt all the way through, less weight, don't have to have the extra 2 or 3 little bolts there. And of course it's fairly deep carry, very nice. And rolling it around onto the top, we've got a well-centered blade, a little bit of jimping up the thumb ramp, and a nice set of mostly smooth thumb studs. And I really like these thumb studs. They work really, really well. And check this out. There is a Torx recession in there and a little Torx screw going through there, so if necessary, which I didn't find it necessary, but with your system of sharpening, if you do, you can pull the thumb studs off. Wonderful. And we got a nice bright finish with deep recesses in all the hardware. Very, very nice. Get a little size comparison out of the way. Alright, first up, there is our Rat Model 1. It's of course smaller than a Rat, and it's smaller than our Buck 110, and considerably lighter than either of them. And we'll throw up our Delica, of course. Very similar in size to the Delica, but like I said, we're not going to talk about that knife today. We'll do that sometime later. Moving along to the blade. This is where things get interesting. Boker has given us a full flat ground blade with a, it's not a polished finish, but it is a very smooth finish compared to other knives in this class, and it's made out of 154 cm at 3¼ inches long, with about a 3.1 inch cutting edge. And that 154 cm, as you can see, sharpens up quite nicely. And it was pretty darn sharp out of the box as well. So, very nice. I was rather impressed with the blade. The only place Boker could have done better, and this is something I'm going to fuss about later whenever we talk about ergonomics, is they didn't extend that choil out past the plunge grind. And they could have done 2 things there. If they'd extended that choil out a little more, it would have given you a forward finger choil, and also, of course, it would have given us a better edge down there. But they didn't, and, you know, like many others that don't, it's just part of current knife design, I guess you could say. And we are a drop point design, full flat grind, not quite full, I guess, about 7/8 flat ground. And, of course, it's a fingerprint magnet, as you can see. We've got Boker Plus USA on this side, and simply 154 CM USA on this side. So it's not a big old billboard like some blades. We'll move along now to our pause and read card, and I'll be right back with you. Alright, our pivot inside this guy is your standard sleeve and torque screw pivot. I have not had it apart, but I assume there's a couple of little thin phosphor bronze bushings down in there because it's pretty darn smooth for a lockback. Now, is this one you're going to flick open? Well, it can be done, but you're going to have to put some wrist into it. Now, this knife is fairly new. I have had it for quite a while because I had lots of different feelings about it, and we'll explore those a little deeper as we go along. One of the feelings I had was I thought, well, it's not as smooth as some other knives, but it is. And I couldn't reconcile that with myself because the pivot is plenty smooth. It's just got a lot of spring in that lockback, but it's not easy or not hard to disengage the lock. So it's an interesting thing. And speaking of the lock, it's a standard lockback. We've got a notch back here in the blade that whenever we rotate it around, the little hook on the end of the lock bar slides into that notch and we're locked up. And once we're locked up, this thing is solid in every direction. It's, you know, it's not as solid as some frame locks, but it's as solid as almost any lockback I've ever dealt with. So, very good there from Boker. And now, moving on into ergonomics. That's where I had the indecisiveness. It feels wonderful in hand. Everything is done beautifully. You lay the knife in your hand, all that scalloping, all that contouring, it just fits great. You can get it in just about any grip you need to, and wow, guys, it's good. You know, draw cut grip, it's not perfect, but it's still pretty darn good. What kept getting me are two things. One, I would want to choke up on the knife to do some things, and there's just not enough choil right there. That's what I was talking about a minute ago. They could have extended that choil a bit. Now, is it a deal breaker? Of course not. It's not a deal breaker. It's just something that gets me a little bit, may not bother you at all. And the other thing that kind of got me is they cover it up pretty good, but right here is kind of sharp. Now, when the knife's closed, no big deal. It's sitting right there in between the two little high points in the GRN. So, no problem. Fully open, again, no problem. It's sitting up there against that lock bar. So, it's not a point of issue unless you got the knife halfway open, which I guess you really shouldn't have. It should be opened or it should be closed. But it just felt like something they could have smoothed over just a bit, just softened it just a slight bit. And otherwise, you know, this thing is pretty wonderful. We'll get the Levi's up here and slide her down in there. And that, my friends, is a beautiful thing. It sits in there with just enough knife handle sticking out that you know it's there. The clip is good. It's not as softened on the edges as I like, but it's not bad. And it's also not sticking up too terribly far off the top of the knife, and it doesn't seem to get caught on things. Everything a pocket clip is supposed to do, it does, and does pretty darn well. And, you know, that's kind of the story of this knife. At its price point of around 60 bucks. We know who the competitors are. And this one is a worthy knife to be in that group of competitors. Very worthy. The 154 CM blade steel is very good from what I can tell. And that in itself may make it rise above some of its direct competitors. The fact that it's made in the United States, for some of us, well, that will make a huge difference. And overall, Boker has just done a wonderful job. They've given us a very ergonomic knife with a nice secure lock back, a good set of springs in there, a reasonably deep carry pocket clip. We even got the little boy dent right here, and hardware is all good. It's all deep. It's all hard. They've just done a good job for the price range that they're trying to hit. And then to bring it all together at 2.34 ounces is just excellent. So guys, if you're looking at the Boker Patriot and you're looking at some of those other knives out there that are in the same class, you definitely do not want to discount this knife. Like I said, we'll bring its major competitor out in the next few days and get a look at the both of them. But this thing is well worth your money, especially in that class of knife. It can compete with all of them. Anyhow, guys, I really appreciate you hanging out with me for a few minutes, getting a look at this Boker Plus Patriot. You know, the only thing that I'm not a huge fan of on this Boker Plus Patriot is the play on patriotism and the such like. I understand it. Kershaw does the same thing, but I understand marketing, guys. I get it, but sometimes I wish they wouldn't flaunt it, I guess. You know, Kershaw kind of flaunts it with their 1776, and what was the other one, 1812, and Boker's kind of doing the same thing here. I get it. They're proud to make a knife in the United States again, and that's a beautiful thing, but it almost feels forced to me with both of those companies. I hope it's not. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that they're just doing it because they like the name and it fit the knife well. And I'm starting to ramble here, guys, so you guys have a wonderful day. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.